Welcome back. This is Frank Demora with the End Times Research Ministry. I'm going to get right into it. You can see that the headline here that I put up for my post today, February the 7th, was the 10 Kings. And I want to share a little bit about Daniel, what God showed Daniel, and in the book of Revelation, what Jesus tells us. And I'm going to connect the dots, and I think you're going to find this really, really interesting. And just let me, before I even get into that, just let me inform everybody. For the next 9 days, all of my information about the prophecies and the connections are going to be put on my Facebook page, as you see right here. So when you go to my site, which you can go to BibleProphecyMan.com, you'll see this link. Click that link and you'll get all the updates as I put them up daily. Or you can go to my other site, endtimesresearchministry.com, and that Facebook link will be there as well. I'm going to be doing something, and all of my information will be put up on my Facebook for the next 9 days. So bear with me. I have to do something, and this is the way I'm going to be giving you this information. Now, before I get into the 10 toes, really quickly, I just want to give you an update about the earthquakes. The Lord did tell us to keep our eyes on the many earthquakes and the huge earthquakes. And so, being that today's a new day, now, I started to warn you. I put up the red flag about 6-7 days ago, and since I put up that red flag warning everybody that the Lord had shown me to watch out for these quakes that were going to be coming very quickly, the big quakes. We've seen some massive quakes, and here's the latest. You'll see another 6.1 that hit the Santa Cruz Island region again, and another 6.2, which is very significant earthquakes. So I just wanted to bring up to date, and we're already seeing so far today there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 earthquakes, and 2 of them are really good sized earthquakes. I wanted you to be aware. Alright, so now that you're aware about the earthquakes, let me get right into what I was talking about, the 10 kings. Very briefly, if you do a study of the book of Daniel, specifically in chapter 2, you're going to see how God had shown the prophet Daniel all of the empires that were going to be in existence one after another until the end times, when Jesus would confront the Antichrist, who would rise from the revived Roman Empire. And at the end of it, there would be 10 kings that we see in the book of Revelation, as you see here, that Jesus talked about these 10 horns. All right? And we know what they are. They're actually kings, because Jesus says it. Take a look at this. And the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. In other words, with the Antichrist. This is who Jesus is talking about. So we know that the 10 horns was symbology, but the Lord tells us that they're kings. And in the last days, going up to what Daniel shows us, now the symbolism of the 10 toes are these 10 kings that Jesus gives us reference to in Revelation chapter 17. But they do mention it a few times. But in the last days, when the revived Roman Empire, you'll see the legs of the first Roman Empire, then you'll see the feet that the Lord talks about, and the 10 toes that will be the final offshoot of the revived Roman Empire, of which these 10 kings, these toes, if you will, are going to give all their power and their authority over to the Antichrist, and he's going to rule the world. And I have some other information about that in my video yesterday, if you want to go and watch that from my video from February the 6th. So that's the breakdown, but in Daniel we're also told that this kingdom is not going to hold. Right? So let me just read it very briefly for you so that you get a really good idea, because I need to make the ties here, and you'll see why. It says, after you another kingdom will arise, inferior to yours. Next, the third kingdom, one of bronze. And of course, they were talking about Alexander the Great, who died at a young age, and his kingdom was separated into 4 different kingdoms by the generals, just like the prophecy said it was going to happen. And so that's what they were talking about with the bronze. Let me go back. Will rule over the earth. And finally, there will be a 4th kingdom. And now this 4th kingdom is the Roman Empire, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything as iron breaks things to pieces. So it will crush and break all the others. And just as you saw the feet, now we're getting to the revived Roman Empire, the feet, the offshoot of the old Roman Empire. The feet and the toes, obviously the toes are connected to the feet, were partly baked clay and partly iron. And so this will be a divided kingdom. So that's what one of the signs that we were looking for what's going on with the European Union, which is the western leg of the old Roman Empire. Are they divided? You're not kidding. Now, yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as they saw iron mixed with clay. And the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. That's very easy to understand. We see some of the major nations like Great Britain and Germany are the strong ones, and we see the weaker ones like Italy, Spain, and Greece, who are having major problems. So moving on, as the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so the kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than the iron mixes with clay. So we have information that in the last days the Roman Empire is going to resurrect. It already has, the European Union. Are they having problems? Yes, they are. Are some of the nations strong? Yes, some of them are. Some of them weak? Yes, they are. And now, so what we're waiting for is the final outcome where the 10 toes will shoot up. And I believe that that'll happen when there's a collapse, giving way to the one man who will take control of the entire earth. So what I want to show you now is something called derivatives, because I believe that there's going to be a major collapse, and we need to get as much information about what's going on as possible. So I know that many of you are going to be asking, what is a derivative? Because derivatives look like now that they're playing a major role in what could bring down economies around the world. So here is, I'll let you read this. I'm going to put this up at my site. It'll give you information exactly what a derivative is. Right? So basically, just in the first paragraph, it says a derivative of a financial statement that derives or gets its value from some real good or stock. It is in its most basic form simply a contract between two parties to exchange value based on action of a real good or service. Now, typically, the seller receives money in exchange for an agreement to purchase or sell some good or service at some specified future date. Right? And now, I believe that this is pretty important here. It says derivatives offer the same sort of leverage or multiplication of a mortgage. For a small amount of money, the investor can control, look at this, much larger value of company stock that would be possible without the derivatives. This can work both ways. Now, this is where it really gets interesting and important. So please, if you're going to pay attention to anything, pay attention to this. Though if the investor purchases the derivative is correct, then more money can be made than if the investment had been made directly into the company itself. However, if the investor is wrong, the losses are multiplied instead. And this is what's going on. Now, many of you may not know who Lindsey William is. Now, Lindsey William has been giving information, as far as I know, as far as I've been listening to him, maybe 5 years or so. And he's been right on the mark every single time. And he has ties with the elite that are telling him what exactly is going on. He explains how he got this information, but so far he's been right on. And I want to play for you what he says about the derivatives and how it's tied in into the economies and what's going to happen in the European Union. And you're going to see why I'm giving you this information, because it is important. So let's go down to the 2-minute and 46 mark.
The word is derivatives.
You see, right off, he starts off with derivatives. But let me go to the actual mark that he's playing it at. I'll start it there.
Until the euro collapses, they've lost it. They don't have time to do anything about it. They said, there's one thing you need to watch. And I said, what is that? They said, Chaplain, you've got to do a crash course on derivatives. Well, believe you me, I did. And I was amazed at what I found. And this is what I'm trying to beg you to do. You must know what derivatives are and to know how to discern when a crack comes in the derivative market. Now, I'm going to give you a name, and then you can go and look him up for yourself. In fact, okay, let me give you his name first. His name is Tom Fowler. Tom Fowler, about 40 years ago, was a young man on Wall Street, and he became a Wall Street insider. Became quite well known in the financial circles, and he finally couldn't stand the corruption no longer and left. And when I was put in touch with him, they said, oh, Tom Fowler can tell you the story. Well, Tom Fowler did. Tom Fowler said that about 35, 40 years ago, he was sitting in his office on Wall Street. That's back when you could look up at the Twin Towers before they were destroyed. And he said that one of his superiors told him that he needed to start selling derivatives. At the time, he didn't even know what they were. They tried to explain it to him. Only a few days, maybe weeks later, an individual came back to him and explained to him what derivatives are and why they were selling them worldwide to the big banks. I mean, the biggest things out there, getting the derivative market going. Well, he was told that the reason they were developing the derivative market, and this is back 40 years ago, Father. Look, do you realize how far in advance they planned the real estate bubble burst? Do you realize how far in advance they planned QE1 and QE2? You heard me correctly, and you'll understand in a moment. And then how far in advance they planned the $15 trillion deficit that they admit to in our federal government right now, and Congress can't even come up with a budget for over a year. Do you realize why they have chosen the presidents they've chosen for the last few presidents to do exactly what they want? This goes back 40 years ago. And then they told Tom Fowler, please, catch this very carefully, I'm going to say it slowly. We are creating the derivative market for the purpose of being able to bring about a worldwide financial crash and collapse whenever we get ready for it to happen. Now, he states this. In fact,
all right, now I'm going to stop it there. It's very critical that you go to my site and listen to the rest of what he's going to say. All right, but for the purpose of what I'm going to show you, just keep in mind what he just said, that they have done this because they want to use this to bring down a crash. Now, the only way that the Antichrist can actually take power, worldwide power, and so that he can stop people from buying or selling, is to control the economy. And so when there's chaos, when the economies go down, it gives platform for the rise of the Antichrist. And we believe that it's going to start with the European Union, the strong and the weak, as we see in Daniel chapter 2, falling apart. Now, with that, let me go back to another segment and play this, because this is really, really important. Then I'm going to finally bring in and tie the knot for you so that you understand why I'm showing you this information. And please, pass this information on to as many people as you can. Let me play this.
Yes, the euro is going to fall first. This will
spread and take banks and the euro happening overseas because
of over 20 years. He said,
all right, so what I've done is I fast forwarded it for you to get to the important part. But this video also talks about the Obama health care reform, which is really, really interesting. And Lindsey Williams tells you about what they're doing with the health care bill. But let's go to the part that I'm centering on today for this report.
You'll be thrown into federal prison.
Yeah, this is the way it's going, folks, and this is why we have truth tellers on like Pastor Lindsey Williams. Pastor Williams, if you don't mind, maybe we can get back to what's happening overseas, because I spoke with Bob Chapman of the International Forecaster briefly this morning, and I wanted to talk to him a little bit about what we're seeing in Greece, because it pertains to so many of the things that you've said. And Bob Chapman says that he believes Greece is going to default, as he predicted a year and a half ago, and this will spread and take banks and the euro down with the default. So, sir, my question to you is, because you've said that the euro will collapse before the dollar, and when it does, folks will have a couple of weeks to get out of all paper assets, because then the dollar will fall. Are you sticking with that prediction? Is that something we all need to be very aware of?
Yes, very definitely. In fact, more so than ever. If it's written on a piece of paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. I hope that you will say that over and over and over and over. Yes, the euro is going to fall first. I was told that it'll be one European country after the other will default until the euro and the European Union are in such a collapsed position that they'll have no choice. But
all right, I'm going to stop it there for a second, because those that have been with me since I opened up my website back in 2000, I believe it was in 2005, I've been saying the exact same things. And I didn't even know Lindsey Williams at this time. But I really believe in my heart that the gifts that the Lord has given to me, the gift of discernment and foreknowledge, that the Lord has revealed to me things about the future, and now He's confirming them through other people as well, like Lindsey Williams, who I've never met, but He is saying the same things that are coming from the elite. And so I've been warning in my book, in my live presentations, and also at my posts and my YouTube videos about the euro, watch the euro, pointing to Daniel chapter 2. So let me continue on here.
To render the euro worthless. At that point, you have somewhere in the matter of days, not months, maybe weeks, but not months. You have only a matter of days to get out of every piece of paper you've got. Now let me try to explain what I'm speaking of. I'm talking about Federal Reserve notes. I'm talking about Treasury bills. I'm speaking of your retirement, your 401k, your IRA. But of course you can't get out that quickly. So you're going to lose it. And they know this.
All right, so for some reason it stopped right there, and I'm going to ask you to listen to the rest, but you're getting the gist of it. It's talking about the euro going down, and then it's going to have the domino effect and bring down the dollar. Now, yesterday, I talked about the same thing. As a matter of fact, I went back to a post that I gave to you, I think it was back in 2011, and I showed you the domino effect. So you might want to watch that video that I made yesterday. So what's the significance about this? I want to go to an article that came out today, and you're going to see why I'm giving you all this information. Now here's the article, and I'm going to have the link, and it's called, Is This the Beginning of the Horrifying Stock Market Crash in Europe? And it says this: Are we witnessing the start of the historic meltdown in Europe? In recent days, two massive corruption scandals have greatly shaken the confidence in the European financial markets. The first involves the Spanish Prime Minister, Mario Rajoy. It is being alleged that he has been receiving illegal cash payments, and the calls for his resignations grow louder with each day passing. The second is, get this, remember what Lindsey Williams said? This is why I gave you a little bit of information about what derivatives are. Let me move this up. So, derivatives scandal at the third largest bank in Italy. Allegedly, there are some very large unreported derivative deals that were supposed to help hide losses at the bank, but instead they actually made the losses much larger. Now remember when I gave you the, let me go back to my site here for a second. Let me scroll up. And remember, if it said, you know, they can work both ways. But right here, this is why I outlined it before. However, if the investor is wrong, the losses are multiplied instead. Or if you want to put a new word in here, if he's corrupt and doing things illegal, the problem is multiplied. So now you see why I was giving you this kind of information. So let's go back again to the article and pick it up. Looking into the derivative scandal and starting to spread to other banks, and nobody is quite sure how far down the rabbit hole this thing goes. But what everyone does agree on is that these derivative scandals have shaken up the Italian politics. Now this becomes really interesting because a while back I told you to watch out what Silvio Berlusconi does, because he's re-entered the race again. Remember, he was tossed out of office not long ago, and now he is making a surge. And one of the reasons why he's making a surge is because of this derivative scandal, all right? Shaking up the Italian politics, and the outcome of the upcoming election is now very uncertain. Former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi is rapidly rising in the polls, and the European establishment is less than thrilled about it. Now, meanwhile, stock indexes all over Europe fell rapidly on Monday, even to the Dow that brought it down, as you see here, 129 points. So will all this blow over in the few days, or is this the beginning of the full-blown stock market crash in Europe? Now, if Lindsey Williams is getting information that is correctly from the elite, and he's talking about these derivatives, and now we're seeing scandals about the derivatives in these banks that are causing more problems in Europe, it just really makes you wonder, and it makes you take a look at what's going on. Now, they do give you some other information, important information that you should take time to read about what's going on with the banks and how it's affecting these different nations, and how that the nations are really, some of these nations are already in a depression. Look at this. It says, that is a very good question. Perhaps there would not be so much concern if the overall European economy was doing well. But the truth is that the underlying economic fundamentals in Europe have continued to even get worse. And I said it was going to, and it has. Now, the unemployment rate in the Eurozone is at an all-time high, and the unemployment rates in both Greece and Spain are now over 26%. So look at as Spain and Greece as two of the weak links. Two of those, if you remember when the prophet Daniel showed us that some iron and clay, they don't mix, some weak and strong. There you go, the examples of that. Much of the southern Europe is already in the midst of a full-blown economic depression. So it really has been remarkable that the financial markets in Europe have been able to hold up as well as they have so far. Now, he goes back and he gives you all of the different nations and how their indexes are dropping. And he takes time in this article to show you the percentages, how they're losing the percentages. Again, it goes into more information about Silvio Berlusconi. And you'll see it right here, how the scandal, it says the Italian scandal is related to Italy's third biggest bank and they give you the name of this bank in Italian here, which has received 2 government bailouts and may yet have been nationalized as the losses mount. And they tell you how this has affected the Italian campaign, whereas now it is giving the ex-Prime Minister Berlusconi making a huge surge. Now their election is February the 25th, right? Now, one of the reasons why I'm giving you information about Silvio Berlusconi is because in the past, this man has likened himself to Jesus Christ. He said, and all of these documents are in my book, by the way, he said that he has given himself to his people. He has sacrificed himself. That he looks upon himself as the king. He has the qualities of the Antichrist, many of them. He's boasted about himself. He's prospered in just about everything he does. He's one of the most richest people in the world. So every time that we see things that are running parallel to what the scripture says, I point these things out. And Silvio Berlusconi, who everybody wrote off, I'm looking at him thinking, geez, is this guy coming back again? So we need to be paying attention. And they even give you more information down here. In Italy, ex-premier Silvio Berlusconi has upset the political landscape just 3 weeks before elections. So I'm thinking, is it just in the making of prophecy coming to fulfillment? I don't know. All I know is something that I'm definitely watching. I'm watching because I know what the Bible says about the revived Roman Empire. I know that there's going to be something that will shake up the world economy, something that will drive the European Union, which has 27 nations. There's something going to happen that will, as you know from Daniel now, it won't cleave. They won't hold together. And eventually, the 10 toes that the Lord shows us in His Word are going to stand up. And I believe that they're not that far off. And I believe that it's going to emerge when the economies go down and this man will shoot up out of the 10 toes. He'll actually be the little horn that Daniel talks about. He'll shoot up among the 10. And he's going to subdue 3 of the kings, 3 of these leaders, and take full control. So it's something that we really need to be paying attention to. What's going on with the derivatives, what's going on with the European community, what's going on in the United States with the massive debt and the stalled economy here. I don't believe that any of these things are coincidence. I believe that God is showing us what is going on. So with that, I want to thank you again for allowing me to come into your homes this way. And again, in closing, just let me again remind you, for the next 9 days, you can come to either one of my sites and click on the Facebook link that will take you to my Facebook for the Last Chronicles of Planet Earth, and you'll get all your news there. God bless everyone.